Okay, so I saw on your LinkedIn page that you graduated from Laurier in 2018, and you graduated from the BBA program. So, at your time at Laurier, what skills and experiences did you gain that prepared you for your role today? I saw that you are currently working at the Clorox Company. So, what skills and experiences helped you with that?
Yeah. Um, I would say that one of the best skills that I learned from the undergrad experience was in the upper years when we actually took some specialized courses. I specialized in marketing, so I was able to take some courses related to like retail management and like service marketing. And even though working in e-commerce, I don't directly touch any of those areas specifically, but I learned a lot of really interesting fundamentals in those courses that definitely apply like when doing any kind of like merchandising or things like that. That was the super interesting to me and the most helpful in learning those kinds of courses. But um, also in the lower years, like in first and second year, when you're doing more broad general courses, the stuff that was really helpful, I found like now I find that at the time I found it really annoying was doing all those case studies and case competitions and what was that one called? Like BU 111, that new venture. Um, yeah, that project. Those are really helpful because you actually get to build a business plan. And I thought at the time that it was kind of unnecessary and it was really tedious. But like now looking back on it, learning those kinds of fundamentals actually really helps in working actually in like any kind of business capacity, whether it be marketing, finance, um, sales, like whatever it is you're working in, those kinds of fundamentals actually transfer into your work.
Yeah, I'm definitely waiting to get into those third year courses and to specialize in fourth year because second year and first year it's like pretty general and it's a little bit boring, but I know I just have to push through it to get there.
Yeah.
So tell me about what a typical workday looks like for you, and is there something that you're currently working on or that you just finished working on that's like really exciting?
Sure. Typical workday. Well, for the past year of working from home, I think it's been almost actually exactly 1 year of working from home. It's been a little bit more unique with our team working in digital marketing and e-commerce. Things have like really picked up for us versus before. So we're pretty busy now doing a lot of planning with a lot of different retailers are jumping on doing their omni-channel strategy work. So I work a lot with different retailers to get any kind of campaigns launched, working on like the budgeting aspect of it, the actual execution from like a content, or if you're doing any kind of like targeting or audiences that you're trying to reach, anything like that, I would work with them. And then I also work on in a typical day on refining search campaigns. So those are the campaigns where you actually search for products on retail sites and you get served those sponsored products ads. So I also work on those because those require some like tweaking on a relatively frequent level to be able to adjust them. And then I work also very closely on our team with the finance team actually, because anytime you're planning actual campaigns or anything that you want to actually execute from a marketing or sales perspective, you have to make sure that it makes sense from the finance side as well. So we actually do a lot of those kinds of budgeting and planning and setting up the POs and actually processing invoices. So that part of the job is also very important. And I don't love it, but it's very necessary and has to get done. So yeah, that's kind of a brief overview.
Nice. So what do you enjoy most about working at the Clorox Company, and what do you dislike about working there?
Um, I'll start with the dislike. There's not a ton that I dislike. I think Clorox is such a unique employer to work with. They're super inclusive and flexible, and I've really been enjoying working there. I've worked there for almost just over a year now. So I'm still relatively new, but I've really got to get involved in the involved in the culture of the company, which is very open, and there's a ton of communication and teamwork and collaboration, especially with working from home. You would think that it would become more siloed, but I actually find that our teams are much better connected now, and we're always there for each other if anyone needs like a 10-minute brainstorming session or anything like that. So from that perspective, like the collaboration piece has been really, really helpful. In terms of negatives, I mean, the only thing I can say is working in the space that I work in is just making sure that everyone is actually interested and involved in e-commerce. That was like the biggest hurdle prior to the pandemic, but now I think everyone sees its value and how everyone has shifted to that space. So it's actually has helped us, I think, because now everyone wants to get involved and wants to have all hands on deck and work on different projects to get that executed.
Mm-hmm. So you said that you worked there for almost a year now. So it's been mostly like at home. Like, have you been in the office type of thing? Like, so what do your hours look like at home, I guess? Because it's like the work-life balance, I guess, would be pretty difficult just because it's all at home now.
Yeah, for sure. It does get difficult at times because there's no boundaries between what's work and what's home. So that's definitely been very difficult for me. I still try to keep it to between 8 to 9 hours, but I definitely don't always follow that rule. And if I have extra time at night, I'll like hop back on, which I know we shouldn't be doing, but it just happens. It's just the way it is with those blurred lines at this point of working from home. So yeah, typical day though, I tried to keep it to 8 to 9 hours.
Yeah, I find that everything's just sort of blending into like the next day, and it's hard to like leave separate time for like work and like relaxing and like the weekend. I feel like the weekends and like the weekdays just blend together, but that's good. So how does your current job compare to your past jobs? Like, are there any major differences with what you're doing now versus what you're doing in the past?
Well, since graduating in 2018, I started working in ecom right away. Even the last company that I worked there for about a year, and I was doing similar role as what I'm doing now. So it was in the same space, even though like the tasks and the projects were different. So it hasn't really, I would say, it hasn't changed for me since graduation because I went into this space right from graduation. But I would say comparing what I do now to like co-ops, it's definitely very different. And very different pace, a lot of different types of works and projects. So that's the biggest change. Like versus when I was doing co-ops, like in 2017 and 2018, it was totally different than actually graduating in 2018 and going into this space and seeing kind of like how fast everything moves and how quickly you need to get things moving. It's definitely been very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So, like, more responsibility now, I guess, than when you were doing co-op.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it definitely you definitely do get more responsibility when you actually go into like a full time position at a company because they know you're going to be there long term. So obviously you're privy to a lot more projects that way.
Mm-hmm. So now I'd like to ask you a bit about how you came across a job in e-commerce. So, what initially attracted you to this job?
Um, well, I remember when I first graduated and I was looking for jobs, I wanted something that was different, I guess. And this role that I saw initially at the last place that I worked at seemed the most interesting because it seemed like a space that was new and but it was like up my alley because as in this generation I feel like we just are very tech savvy and we are born into it. So that's why I was drawn to it because I thought this would actually be really exciting and interesting and I understand this. I understand Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest and TikTok, like those things make sense to me, so I want to go into this space. So I think it was like that connection to it rather than going into traditional just brand management or marketing. This was kind of just more exciting to me, and that's how I got into it.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that there's like a certain personality type that's like most compatible for an e-commerce job?
Um, Personality type. I don't know if there is like a personality trait that I don't think you wouldn't be able to learn on the job. I think most things you can definitely get those skills as long as you're willing to learn. You can get accustomed to those skills. So I guess that's the best skill, like just willingness to learn and adapt and be flexible. Because things change all the time in this space, and you can't just get used to the same process of doing things because 6 months from now it might be totally different, and something that you were doing that had a really good a campaign you were running that was doing really well 2 months ago might be like flopping now, so you gotta pivot. So I think it's just about that, being willing to learn and adapt.
Definitely a lot of change and flexibility, especially now with e-commerce and all that. A lot of people are shopping online more, so I can see that. So where do you see yourself a few years from now, and do you plan on staying in e-commerce?
I definitely see myself staying in e-commerce. I think it's something that I just find very interesting, and there's still a lot for me to learn in this space. So I want to continue to develop those skills and learn as I go along. So in the next few years, I'll probably still be within this e-com space. Maybe I'll go more into digital media, or maybe I'll go more into analytics, but just definitely want to stay in e-com. And I think that's totally doable because there are so many more e-commerce positions. Every company, like even just brick and mortar companies or any kind of CPG company, now they have tons and tons of availability and willingness to hire new talent that is within this space. So I think there's a lot of opportunities here, and it's definitely an exciting space to be in.
So what are your thoughts on the e-commerce industry? Do you think that it'll go into like a different direction in the next few years, and like what's changing with it?
What's changing? I think it's just going to keep accelerating. I mean, I think if the past year taught us anything about ecom was that it changes a lot, and just being able to adapt to those changes constantly is definitely going to be key. In terms of where I see it going, I think all retailers are going to have their own fully fleshed out e-commerce, either apps or sites or something, and they're probably all going to move towards having some kind of marketplace in there. Maybe not the grocery channels, but like we saw it with Walmart, and I think that's going to be very normalized. And then from like a media perspective, I think there's going to be some evolution around privacy, and as a lot of consumers become more wary of their data being tracked, I think there's going to be different innovations happening in that space to accommodate for that, and changes happening there. And companies will have to pivot on how they're targeting audiences because maybe they won't have access to the same information they did before. So that's also another area that I think might be shifting and changing in the near future.
And so what's an important piece of advice that you would give students looking to start a career in e-commerce, and like what can they start doing now to like jumpstart that, I guess?
I have to think about this one. I think just being, because I don't know, and maybe since 2 years ago it's changed, I don't think there's any courses that I would recommend taking. I don't know, maybe it's changed. I think maybe there was like a social media course that maybe I would recommend taking. I think I remember that in fourth year. I didn't take it, but there might be some courses popping up now in marketing relating to digital marketing now that you could take that would be interesting to learn, because I'm sure you would actually get to do projects related to that. So that could be one thing. But other than that, I think just work on your Excel skills, just be open to learning. I think also it's important to have a grasp on finance, because you're going to touch on finance a lot in ecom. Because it's not just you're responsible for one budget, you're responsible for many different budgets. So having a good grasp on how those things work is also important.
Yeah. Would you say that there's a lot of like technical skills involved, and did you need to take any courses to like help you familiarize like yourself with I guess, like the processes that you use, or is it just kind of like if you have an open mind, like you'll be able to learn quickly?
That's a good question. Well, there is, I think, different accreditations that you can take. Like there's Google Ads that you can become certified in. I think Amazon might also have like a program where you can do the test. Like anyone can take them and do the test and get certified. So that could be a good option if you want to just learn how those things work. You can definitely do that now, so you have that already when you're starting to look for jobs. So I will look into those different kind of certifications that you can get online. And for the most part, I think they're free. And I think for the most part, it's not like they take like 8 months to do. They're pretty quick to do. So that can be like an easy thing that you can get accredited in on and add it to your resume.
Yeah, I was looking into doing that because the Google Ads one interested me. Um,
Yeah.
so that's all my questions for today. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. Definitely gave a lot of insight into the e-commerce industry and like how you got started basically right out of university and like how it's going now. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.